Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and this message, it comes from a translation of a message that I received. So the narration of that message that we received reads like this. Hello my brother, how are you? I am a man who is from Zim, but currently I am working at this other company. It is a different company that I used to work for when I first came here to South Africa. What happened in that company is that the white guy that we were working for, he used to own a lot of heavy machinery, and we were quite fortunate enough that when we started working for that guy, it was me and the other guys who were from Zim as well as other guys who were from Mozambique. When we were working on that white man's plot, we were trained on how to operate those heavy machinery equipment. When we were really experienced, that was when we were taken to his main branch. This main branch, it was in the city, but in the industrial areas. When we were now working there, we then started fighting for space at our work. We were fighting for the boss to recognize the job that you would have done. So this place, my brother, it ended up being a very toxic environment because we started hating each other and we were fighting amongst ourselves so that we can get the attention of the boss. So what was happening was that the guys who were from Mozambique, they were defending themselves whilst they were fighting in their own corner. And us, the guys that were from Zim, we were also working in our own group, making sure that the other guys that we were working with, we would always make sure that the boss would find fault in their work that they would have done, as well as the South African guys. They grouped themselves together and they were fighting in their own corner. But everyone respected me, even though our boss, he was like the foreman. We didn't have a foreman. Our boss was the one who was controlling everything. But I was like the unofficial foreman because I was really close to the boss and everyone was scared of me since I was very close to our boss. But this was such a toxic environment whereby if you would make a mistake, instead of you having your co-workers helping you, they would then report you to the boss and they would show the boss that this is the mistake that you have done so that the boss can fire you. So this environment, it was very toxic to be working in such an environment. It then happened that this other day there was a big raid in that industrial area where we were working. The police then came to our workplace and raided our workplace. It was the police that were raiding those guys that were not South Africans, those ones that were working without papers. Then the South African guys, the ones that I was working with, they told me to hide into one of the JCBs, and they showed the police where my other brothers were hiding. And from there on, I started to hate other foreign guys that I was working with. I didn't want my boss to hire any more foreign guys because of that raid that had happened. I wanted to become the only foreign guy who was working there. I wanted people to think that I was a South African as well because I was trying to protect my job, and I wanted my boss to fire all the guys that were from Mozambique and especially the guys that were from Zim, because as for my brothers who were from Zim, they were always challenging me. If I will tell them something at work, then they will end up challenging me. As for the guys that were from Mozambique, they were really humble because they knew that I was the one who was very close to the boss, so they respected me. But as for my Zim brothers, they made it to be so difficult for me, and I tried to have them fired. But my boss could not have them fired because these guys that were from Zim, they knew how to operate the machineries that he had, and this type of heavy machinery that we were operating. It was not a matter of you just picking up someone from the streets, then you train them. You needed to train someone for many, many years before they can actually start operating that machinery without any supervision. Each and every time when I would try to force my boss to fire one of his workers that were foreigners, then he will start to complain and he will say that if I fire them, then it means that I might as well close this company because they were the backbone of the company. So it happened that with their experience, it was the one that was saving them. When I went back home to Zim, I then had the intentions of using Muti on my boss so as to control his mind, and I didn't want anyone to challenge me at work. I said, if I cannot make my boss fire the guys that are foreigners that are working at his company, it is far much better that I just use some Muti on him. I then visited this other old man when I was at home. I told that old man that I had visited that I wanted some powerful charms that can make even my boss to be so fearful of me. I wanted to be feared so much at work. So my brother, that traditional healer, then told me that this was quite easy. The healer told me to write my boss's name and his surname. So on that piece of paper that he had given me, I then wrote the name of my boss as well as his surname. After that, he took that paper and he gave me another paper and he said that you can write the name of those other guys that you are working with. So I wrote the names of the guys that were from Zim. I wrote the names of the guys that I was working with that were South African, as well as the Mozambican guys that I was working with. After I had written all of their names, that was when he told me that I had to fold that piece of paper that had the names of my co-workers written on it. And after that, he told me that I had to fold it. And after folding it, he told me that I had to put it into one of my shoes. And after that, I had to walk, and I was not supposed to sit down. I had to walk until that piece of paper that I would have placed into one of my shoes would be teared into pieces. He said that once you start walking, you should never stop working, because this was part of the ritual that I was about to perform. When this ritual was completed, I was then given a bucket. This bucket, it was filled with bathing water, but this water, it was not your normal water. The water was mixed with herbs, and inside that bucket, the water was filled with a lot of herbs that I could not understand. Then inside the water, there was a horn. This horn, it once belonged to a god, and the healer said that this horn was going to strengthen me, and this horn was now going to become my Tokoloshe. It was the one that I will be using at my workplace. And he said that this horn was going to give me powers so as to control any man that I will be working for, as well as making people to be afraid of me and to respect me. I asked, will this Tokoloshe require blood from me in the future? That traditional healer said, no, no, no. If you encounter any spirit, and if the spirit tells you that it wants a little bit of sacrifice from you, all that you have to do is that amongst your blood relatives, you have to make sure that you choose one amongst your blood relative, and then the Tokoloshe will go and possess that one, the person that you would have chosen, until that person would have died. So this was more like an easy sacrifice. All that I had to do was to point at those Tokoloshe to tell it that this is the relative that I have chosen. If you ever feel like you want to possess someone, then you can go to this relative of mine, then you can possess his or her body. That traditional healer then told me that the person that I would have chosen, he was going to be under the possession of that Tokoloshe until he or she dies. I then returned back to South Africa. When I returned back to South Africa, I then started controlling my boss. I was controlling like he would hire and fire whomever I wanted him to hire or to fire. And my boss, he was now like my puppet because he would listen to me. In fact, on the day that I arrived in South Africa, my boss quickly called me and he told me that his wife wanted to donate some of her furniture to me, like some electrical appliances like TVs and sofas and a lot of kids toys. And the stuff that they gave me, it was quite a lot. I didn't even know where to put all of that stuff that they had given me. I ended up selling most of that stuff. So it was that spirit of the Tokoloshe that was controlling my boss that made his wife to donate all of that stuff to me. After I had worked for him, I then got bored for working for my boss and I started working for another company where I am currently working at. But there was something that happened there, because when I started working for my new boss, I then used that same rituals, and that Tokoloshe controlled my boss. And when I was now working for him, it said that he was going to promote me even though I never went to university, but he ended up firing his own manager. This is someone who went to university, that has several degrees, but he was just fired for no reason. The reason why he was fired, it was because my boss wanted me not to be working at the site, but he wanted me to be working in the office instead of working in the field. So right now, my brother, I never went to university, but I am the project manager and I am the one who controls everyone in our company. Without a degree, without anything, I control those ones that went to university. I tell them whatever I want to be done because of that Tokoloshe that was given to me by that traditional healer back home.